Welcome to the world of science fiction and forgotten worlds. Alien Universe. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and never miss a new movies and story from this channel. No splash. No scream. No warning. One moment she stood at the edge of the training pool, her thin glass-like body glowing under the station lights, and the next she was gone, slipping beneath the dark water as if gravity had suddenly doubled just for her. Everyone froze. Because the water was not supposed to be dangerous. Because the gravity field was set to standard. Because the alien delegation had assured the humans that her species could tolerate liquid environments. They were wrong. The surface of the pool stayed perfectly calm, reflecting the white ceiling panels like a mirror. For 3 full seconds, nobody moved. The other aliens stared, their long limbs locked in place, their translator bands clicking in confused bursts. Then a single word came through the speakers, distorted with panic. "She is sinking." That was when the human ran. She did not even remove her boots. She crossed the deck in 6 strides and dove straight into the water. The cold hit her like a wall, but she forced her eyes open. At first, she saw nothing. Then she saw it, like a shard of broken glass falling through endless darkness. The alien was not swimming. She was not struggling. She was simply sinking. Mara kicked hard, pulling herself deeper. The gravity in the pool felt wrong, heavier than it should have been, pressing against her lungs, dragging at her limbs. The training pool was only supposed to be 5 meters deep, but the bottom looked impossibly far away. "Mara, stop!" Someone shouted through the combs. "We are reading density fluctuations. The field is unstable." She ignored them. The alien's body had no visible joints, no clear face, only faint lines of light moving inside her translucent form like slow lightning trapped in crystal. Tiny bubbles slipped through her structure as she sank, each one carrying a dim pulse of color. She was drowning, and she did not even know how to fight it. Mara's lungs began to burn. For a terrifying second, she stopped moving, her body screaming at her to turn back, to surface, to breathe. But the alien was still falling. Still, silent, still alone. So Mara kept going. Her hand closed on something smooth and fragile. The alien's surface was colder than the water, almost brittle like frozen glass. For one horrible moment, Mara thought she had grabbed too hard, that she would shatter the being with her own strength. Not with movement, not with sound, but with a sudden burst of color that raced through her form in frantic waves. The translator on Mara's collar crackled, trying to interpret the signal. Pain, pressure, cannot rise. "I've got you," Mara tried to say, but the words vanished in a stream of bubbles. She wrapped one arm around the alien's narrow core and kicked upward. Nothing happened. The water felt thicker now, like liquid metal. The gravity field pulsed again, dragging them both down. Mara pulled harder, muscles straining, lungs burning, vision starting to blur at the edges. Above her, the surface looked impossibly distant. "Mara, you need to let go," the Cum's voice shouted. The alien's light was fading, dimming from bright blue to a weak, flickering gray. Small fractures of darkness spread through her translucent body like cracks in glass. "If..." Mara kicked again, slower this time, her strength fading. The pressure crushed her ribs, forced stars into her vision. Her hand slipped slightly on the alien's smooth surface, and for a moment she felt the terrifying pull of the deep taking them both. She realized something then. The alien was not just sinking. She was denser than the water, far denser. Like a solid crystal dropped into a liquid that could not hold her. She would never float on her own. "Mara, respond." Instead, she shifted her grip, pulling the alien tightly against her chest, and angled her body upward, using every last bit of strength to push toward the distant glow of the surface. The light above them flickered. The gravity surged again. And for the first time since she had jumped in, Mara stopped moving. The pool was only 5 meters deep. Mara had trained here 100 times. She knew the distance, knew how long it took to reach the top with one strong kick. But now the light above stretched like a tunnel, thin and distant, as if the water had become an endless shaft pulling them down. The gravity field pulsed again. The alien's glow dimmed to a faint, trembling thread. No, no. Stay with me? Mara thought, though no sound left her mouth. Her lungs burned like fire. Her arms felt heavy, slow. Every movement cost more strength than the last. The alien's weight dragged at her, not because the being was large, but because she was too dense, too solid, like trying to lift a block of crystal underwater. The comm's voice broke into static. Field collapse. Density spike. Mara, you must release the alien. We cannot pull you both out. Release her. The words echoed in Mara's head. She looked down. The alien's light flickered weakly. But it changed color when Mara held her tighter, shifting from gray to a faint blue, like a heartbeat made of glass. The translator crackled again, barely functioning. Cold falling. Alone. Mara kicked upward with everything she had. Nothing. Her body rose a few centimeters, then stopped, held in place by the crushing pull of the failing gravity generator. The water around them felt thick and unmoving, a heavy column. Pressing from all sides, her vision blurred. Darkness crept in at the edges. She did the only thing she could think of. Mara pushed downward. She angled her legs and kicked toward the bottom of the pool, forcing her body lower. She used it to twist sideways and push off an invisible current in the water, turning that downward. Force into a slow, painful upward drift. It worked for a moment. They moved, a few centimeters. Mara's chest convulsed. A thin stream of bubbles escaped her mouth as her body tried to breathe water. The alien's light flared suddenly, bright and sharp, racing through her form in chaotic patterns. The translator struggled to keep up. Do not break you? Mara understood. The alien was afraid of her, afraid that the human would shatter under the pressure. A weak laugh tried to escape Mara's throat, but only bubbles came. Out. Humans don't break that easy, she thought. She tightened her grip and pulled the alien higher against her shoulder, reducing the drag, making their bodies more streamlined. Then she kicked again, slower, controlled, using the last of her training, the last of her strength. One kick, a small rise. Another kick, a little more. The light above grew slightly brighter. Her arms trembled. Her fingers went numb against the alien's glass-like surface. She could no longer feel the cold, only a deep spreading heaviness. Mara, oxygen critical. The comms whispered. She could not answer. She could barely see, but she could feel the alien's light pulsing against her chest now, faint but steady, matching the slowing rhythm of her own heart. Two falling beings, one human, one alien made of living glass. The gravity field shrieked through the water, a deep vibration that shook Mara's bones. The pressure increased again, crushing, absolute. Her upward movement stopped completely. They hung there in the dark, suspended between the bottom and the unreachable surface. Mara's last clear thought was simple. If she let go, she might live. If she held on, they would both sink. Her fingers tightened. She kicked again, even, though her body no longer had the strength. The surface flickered above them, closer, still impossibly far. And then Mara's vision went completely black. Mara did not remember losing consciousness. She only remembered the darkness, not no pain. No water, no gravity, just a deep, endless black where even the burning in her lungs had faded into nothing. Then something touched her. Not hands, not pressure. Light. A faint blue glow wrapped around her arm, warm and gentle, pulling her forward through the darkness. For a moment she thought she was dreaming, that her brain was inventing comfort in its final seconds. But the light grew stronger, and with it came a sound, not through her ears, but inside her mind, like a soft vibration. Not alone. Mara's eyes snapped open. Water flooded her vision. Her chest convulsed, desperate for air that wasn't there. Instinct screamed at her to swim, but her body felt distant, slow, as if it no longer belonged to her. The alien was moving. For the first time since the fall, the glass-like being was no longer just sinking. Lines of bright blue energy raced through her translucent form, spreading outward into the water in thin, shimmering waves. The gravity around them changed. It didn't vanish, but it shifted, bending slightly, enough to reduce the crushing weight that had pinned them in place. The alien had adapted, or she was trying to. Mara felt herself drifting upward, not because she was swimming, but because the alien's light was pushing against the water, creating a faint buoyant field around them, both. It was weak, unstable. But it was something. Mara forced her arms to move, though they felt like stone. She tightened her grip and kicked once, clumsy and slow. Her lungs screamed. Black spots danced across her vision again. The surface was still far away, but now it was visible, a trembling circle of light above them. The translator crackled, barely alive. You? Stayed. Mara tried to answer, but her mouth filled with water. Her body spasmed, reflexes breaking down. She was out of time. The alien's glow flared brighter, shifting from blue to a sharp white. The light wrapped around Mara's torso, forming thin, glass-like strands that held her in place, supporting her weight, lifting her inch by inch. The effort was destroying the alien. Dark fractures spread through her body, jagged lines where the light failed to reach. Each pulse grew weaker than the last. She was using herself as a flotation device, trading her own stability to keep the human from sinking. Mara understood. No, she thought, though her mind was fading. You don't get to save me. That's not how this works. With the last strength she had, she forced her legs to kick again, adding her failing motion to the alien's fragile lift. They rose together. Slowly. Painfully. Two broken swimmers pushing against a field that wanted them at the bottom. The light above expanded, growing brighter, closer, real. Voices echoed faintly through the water now, distorted shouts from the deck. Hands reached down, blurred shapes cutting through the glow. The alien's light flickered one final time. The fracture spread, and just before everything went white, Mara felt something new in her mind. Not words. Not images. A feeling. Gratitude. And fear. Not fear of death. The human would let go. Hands pulled Mara out of the water. Air slammed into her lungs like fire. She coughed, choking, her body shaking violently as the med team rolled her onto her side. The world was a blur of white lights, alarms, and shouting voices. Where is the alien? She gasped. No one answered. Mara forced herself up, ignoring the pain in her chest, ignoring the medics trying to push her back down. She looked toward the pool. The water was perfectly still. Empty. No, she whispered. She was with me. She was right here. Eh? Technician pointed at the gravity readouts, his face pale. Lieutenant, the density spike collapsed the moment you crossed the surface. There was only one mass in the retrieval zone. One mass. Mara's heart dropped. That's not possible, she said. She was holding me. She lifted me. The alien delegation stood at the edge of the deck, their translator bands flickering rapidly. emitting overlapping tones of shock and confusion. Then one of them spoke. Our records show that a glass-form individual cannot generate lift in liquid. Their structure is too dense, too rigid. It is physically impossible. Mara stared at them, water still dripping from her hair. She did it. I felt it. She wrapped around me. She pushed me up. The pool lights flickered. A low vibration passed through the deck, and then Mara felt it, a faint warmth against her chest. She looked down. Beneath the soaked fabric of her uniform, something glowed. Not outside, inside. A thin line of blue light pulsed under her skin, just over her heart, fragile and flickering like a distant star. The med scanner screamed as it tried to read the anomaly. Foreign structure detected, it announced. Non-invasive. Embedded its cellular interface. Energy signature matches alien subject. Mara froze. She didn't lift me, she whispered. The realization hit her all at once. At the last moment, when her body had begun to fail, when there was no strength left to swim, the alien had done the only thing her species could do. She had changed phase. Glass forms could not float. They could not swim. But under extreme stress, they could disperse, break themselves apart into microscopic crystalline fragments and bond with a stable host structure. A survival mechanism, a last resort. She hadn't pushed Mara to the surface. She had become part of her. The alien delegation stepped back in stunned silence as the blue light under Mara's skin pulsed again, weak but steady. The translator on the deck activated automatically, searching for a signal. It found one, not alone. The voice was faint, fragmented, but unmistakably the same. Mara pressed a trembling hand against her chest. "You saved me," she said softly. A new wave of light spread beneath her skin, brighter this time, responding to her touch. The lead alien finally spoke, their tone filled with something that sounded very much like awe. "Our kind bonds only in death," they said. "It is a memory transfer, a record of a life. Never with a living host. Never voluntarily." Mara looked up, her eyes steady despite the shock. "She didn't do it to survive," Mara said. "She did it so I would." The medical scanner chimed again. Symbiotic stability detected. Host vitality increasing. Oxygen recovery above. Baseline. Mara felt it. Strength returning. Warmth spreading through her body. Not replacing her. Not controlling her. Supporting her. 2 heartbeats. 1 human. 1 being of living glass. And for the first time in recorded history, neither of them was sinking. They brought scanners, containment fields, isolation protocols, words like contamination and unknown biology. They spoke in careful tones, as if Mara were a fragile device that might shatter under the wrong frequency. But every time they tried to run a deep scan, the blue light beneath her skin dimmed, flickering in distress, and Mara felt it. Not pain, fear. "She stays," Mara said, her voice rough but steady. "Whatever you do to me, you do to both of us." The alien delegation argued among themselves in sharp, shining bursts. Their species had never seen a living bond before. To them it was sacred, something that only happened at the end of existence. A final archive of memory, but the readings were clear. The alien was not dying. She was adapting. Over the next few hours, Mara began to feel things that weren't entirely hers. Not thoughts, not words, but impressions. A sense of vast cold oceans under black skies. Towers grown from crystal instead of metal. A species that feared gravity the way humans feared the vacuum. And one overwhelming memory. Falling, alone, until a warm, chaotic presence had wrapped around her and refused to let go. Mara sat at the edge of the now-drained pool, medical blanket around her shoulders, watching the empty basin where it had all happened. "You don't have to stay," she said quietly. "If this is hurting, you will find a way to reverse it." The blue light pulsed once, gentle and firm. The translator activated. "Stay." A single word, but filled with certainty. Footsteps approached behind her. Commander Ilian, head of the alien delegation, stopped a respectful distance away. "In our history," he said slowly, "your action will be remembered as an impossible thing. You entered a lethal density field for a being you did not know. You risked your life without calculation." Mara shrugged weakly. "That's just what humans do." Ilian's crystalline eyes shifted to the faint glow beneath her skin. "And she has done something equally impossible. She chose to live, with you rather than die, as memory." For a moment they stood in silence. Then the commander lowered himself in a gesture that Mara had learned was the equivalent of a bow. "From this moment," he said, "you are recognized as a dual being, not human. Not glass form, something new." Mara looked down at her hands, flexing her fingers. The strength in her body felt different now, steadier, balanced. When she focused, the blue light traced faint lines along her veins, not visible to anyone else, but warm and present. 2 heartbeats, perfectly out of sync, yet somehow stronger together. "Does she have a name?" Mara asked. A soft pulse answered her. A sound formed in her mind, delicate and musical, impossible for human vocal cords to reproduce. The translator struggled, then produced a closest approximation. "Lyra." Mara smiled. "Hi, Lyra." The glow brightened in response. Days later, when the station council reviewed the incident, they classified the pool as hazardous, the gravity generator as faulty, the rescue as reckless. But that wasn't what spread across the galaxy. What spread was the footage. A human diving without hesitation. A fragile alien sinking like glass into darkness. And the moment the human refused to surface alone. On worlds where gravity was crushing and oceans were feared, the story became legend. On human channels, it was just another example of something. They barely thought about jump first, figure it out later, never leave someone behind. Mara stood once more at the edge of the repaired pool, cleared for use again. "You ready?" she asked softly. A pulse of blue warmth answered from her chest. This time, when she stepped into the water, she didn't sink. The gravity felt normal, balanced. Where her body moved, the water seemed to support her more easily, subtle crystalline currents adjusting around her. She took a breath and dove. For the first time, she felt what the alien must have felt: weight, pressure, the constant pull downward. And then Lyra responded. A gentle lift, not enough to carry her, just enough to help. They swam together beneath the surface, perfectly synchronized, neither stronger than the other, each compensating for what the other lacked. When Mara surfaced, water streaming from her hair, she laughed, a sound of pure relief and wonder. "We did it," she said. The blue light pulsed brightly, almost like laughter. Out in the observation deck, humans and aliens watched in silence. Because they were not just seeing a rescue anymore. They were seeing proof of something new. That strength was not always about lifting someone alone. Sometimes it was about refusing to let go. And sometimes, when two beings chose to save each other at the same time, they stopped sinking forever